There are even more, way more annoying things that that I'm just reminded of. This one right here is the ground. You had to connect it to the mixer, otherwise you had a loud humming sound the entire time.
You told me once to kill for life, so would you also kill for mine?
Yeah, finally feeling alive again, finally back in the studio. I woke up extremely early to come here and to listen to music and just enjoy this place as much as possible. Although it's a Saturday, I will still try to work a little, but more like the fun stuff. For example, going through my vinyl collection and putting them into the shelf, and maybe even connect my record player to these bad boys and just listen to some old school hip-hop vinyl with just that charm that only vinyl has. This was so much fun. Like, honestly, every single record goosebumps. I still remember why I bought it, how much I paid for it, which songs are on it, what the songs sound like, who made them, who's the remixer, even the BPM of some of them. Vinyl just has this nostalgic feeling, and there are actually so many differences to back in the days DJing and today. Let's maybe go through some of them, because maybe some of you have never DJed with records and still want to know what it was like, or if they should get into DJing with records. Starting with records might be good, but frustrating. It's the hardest to start with, but if you accomplish like the first 2 or 3 months, then everything else will be a whole lot easier. And you will be able to DJ with everything, because that's how you learn the simple principle. All of the new stuff, CDJs, controllers, DJing with the laptop, it just takes care of the most important beat matching for you, so there is not a whole lot to learn and not a whole lot of skill involved. It's more about selecting songs, which is also important, but get your technical stuff right before you play in front of people. And by far the biggest difference was definitely the cost. Like a good record player, this one right here is a really bad one. A good one was like 300 euros and up. A mixer was like 300, 400, 500 euros and up, which is way less than the Pioneer stuff nowadays. But then the records, every single record. If it was a single, for example, this one right here, 7 euros 20. This would be nowadays probably 10. Albums, EPs, 12, 15, 21, 25, even up to 30 if it was like a special album with like 2 vinyls in it. And for one night DJing, you needed at least like 100, maybe even 200 records. Yes, you don't play all of them, but you need to be able to react to the crowd. So I usually went out DJing with around 300 to 400 records if it was like half of the night or even the entire night, just to be safe. And 400 records, like every single one of those is like 250, 300, 350 grams. So you got like 25 kilograms per 100 records. You needed help, definitely. Like me DJing back in the days with vinyl, there was no way I'm going to a gig alone. At least like 1 or 2 friends helping me to carry the records. Sometimes, or a lot of times, you also brought your own equipment with you. So heavy and expensive. And even if you had enough money from DJing to buy records, there was still the problem to actually get them. Because here in Germany, getting like hip-hop, US hip-hop was a little tougher. So some record stores only got like 3 or 4 copies. So I went at least 2 or 3 times a week to every single record store in town, which were only 3, at least the ones that were specialized in hip-hop and electronic music. There were others for oldies and stuff like that, but I wasn't interested in that much. That's more for wedding DJs. For example, this one right here is a very limited AXSENS record. It's 1, 2, 3 Pump It, Black Eyed Peas versus AXSENS, which was back then Axwell and Eric Prydz, their collaboration. AX for Axwell, ER for Eric Prydz, 1, 2, 3 Pump It. It was an edit. You just had to make a copy of the song onto vinyl and sell it illegally. So a classic white label, like nothing on it. No code, no selling, no barcode, not registered, no royalty collecting company involved. I also got here another one, Sean Dasman. Was once really good. Spread My Wings. This one was like a promo press. So back in the days, edits. Back in the days, promos, 6 songs of his album for DJs to just have them before they were released, to already play them in the club. So you really had to fight to even get songs, and like your song library collection was very, very individual. There was no other DJ with the same songs. Nowadays you go on BEATPORT, buy the top 100, and everyone does the same because everyone is lazy and doesn't search for tracks. They just play what's popular. And back in the days you just went to the record store, you listened to it before buying. This could take like 1 or 2 hours, which was always fun. The record store guy was one of my best friends after a couple of years. And for example, you see this red mark right here. This one is like how we used to do like cute points. So you mark the spot where the song started. So when you were trying to scratch or to beat match the song, that you know where the start was. But scratching, again, if you move the record, it could happen that it jumps and then you were basically screwed and had to search it again with your headphones. So this was really, really tough DJing. Also the record players, they're just not working perfectly. It's not a CD player, it moves. Those are physical parts. For example, every record player has something called Gleichlaufschwankung, and that's at least a German word. I don't know what it's called in English, but it's like the wiggle of the record, because yes, it has like a certain speed, but it's not perfect. Like there is a motor in it, there is a belt in it or a magnet, and it could happen that a song with 128 BPM didn't play 128 BPM. A little more, a little less. Could also vary with like vibrations, people touching it, the condition of the record, the condition of the grooves, because the needle is sitting in those grooves and scratching every single time you play the record a tiny bit away of the vinyl. Some records you just had to buy them again after a couple of years because you couldn't really play them again. The same with having scratches on the record. If there's a scratch on the record, it jumps and you can't play a song to a crowd that is jumping, so no go. I usually then mark those records that were kind of unusable. So if I really love the song, I bought 2 copies, sometimes even 3 copies. And this also enabled me to loop songs. Nowadays, CDJs, you just press a button, it loops it, 1 bar, 4 bars, 8 bars, 16 bars, no problem. Infinite and stable forever. It will loop from today until the end of time. Records, you can't really loop. There are like 2 methods. You put a sticker on it at a very exact, precise point on the record so that the needle hits the sticker and jumps back into the groove. So this was one way of looping. It didn't work with all songs. It really depended on the BPM, because the BPM had to match the ring of the one groove that went around so that you got like a seamless loop. And the other method was to have twice the same record on both turntables and then just let one play with the crossfader to the one playing so everyone could hear it. Then the other one spinning back, crossfader over to let it play. In the meantime, turning this one back, let it play at the precise second, crossfader back again, and playing it again. In my entire 5-6 years of playing with vinyl live, I did that maybe 5 times in front of a crowd because it's so tough. There are so many variables to screw it up. And if you start drinking while DJing, it gets even tougher. So that's really, really hard to pull off. And then like all of the probably obvious things, skipping a track, searching on a track like on a CDJ, not possible. You just had the needle. I have to say it's actually faster, because if you learn to read the vinyl, because you can see in the grooves were silent parts and louder parts and more bass and less bass, you could actually really well aim for breaks and of course for the next song. So I think this was actually an advantage, just not scratch the record while putting the needle down. This was also really tough. What also happened a lot was the needle falling here into those silver dots. It was immediately broken and you had to get a new needle. Every needle was like 30 to 50 euros. So yeah, quite an expensive hobby at that time. You made more for your gigs, but still all of the records buying, it was more a hobby and a love for music. And it still is for me, but there are some people that just now with their laptop DJ, because everyone is DJing and it's cool kind of, which is a little bit ruining the market, and like the quality I think is going down because it's easier. You don't have to go through a whole big phase of suffering to actually go out there and play. On the other hand, it's kind of cool that even people without a budget are able to just start DJing and go from there. I mean, you can start learning it with cheap equipment that does everything for you and just work your way up. I think within a year, you can at least learn the technical part of DJing good enough to play in front of a crowd. If you just learn how to sync with the Pioneer equipment or a controller, it's even possible in a month. But then good luck. If one thing goes wrong, you're screwed. You're not able to work with your equipment. There are even way more annoying things that that I'm just reminded of. This one right here is the ground. You had to connect it to the mixer, otherwise you had a loud humming sound the entire time. The arm, this is like really so hard to set up. You have here a weight, and depending on where you put the weight, it gives more pressure onto the needle or less pressure, better for the vinyl. More pressure, better for you scratching it. So it was like always trying in between, and depending on the record, how much the record weighs, you also needed a different weight for the arm. And then later on you had anti-scatching, which helps it prevent it from being drifted outside. The start-stop, like if you hit Q on a CDJ, it plays the song immediately. If you hit start-stop on a record, it takes like 1, 2, 3, at least like 3 or 4 seconds until the record is up to speed on a good record player. This one right here needs like 10 seconds, which is really horrible. And then every record had a speed, either 33 or 45. You had also to check that and not screw that up. And then also the pitch adjustment usually just went from +8 to -8, and there were no BPM displays that showed you what BPM the song was and how you changed it. Not even like the percentage in between. It was basically guessing, like with the feeling that you build up over time. You had to find the right tempo. There was absolutely no help. And then a million of factors you couldn't even control, like the scratches, of course, again. Then also you might be able to see like the rubber feet. They try to isolate it and prevent it from shaking. But if you're playing in a club and it's really loud, you might get vibrations that are through the feet. They go into the arm, through the needle, into the arm, into the system. And then you can kind of create a weird low kind of feedback that is really annoying, and the only way to get rid of it is turning the volume down again, or just trying to place the speakers in a way that they're not like blasting onto the record players. So all in all, comparing vinyls, playing with records, to playing with the modern techniques, it's a pain in the ass. No question about that. It's annoying, it's heavy, it breaks. It even doesn't sound as good, like you have a little bit less bass with records usually, and the bass has to stay mono, and the high frequency is also not possible as you can with MP3 and CD. But the feel of it, like being able to touch a song, knowing when you bought it, have like a deep connection to it, and not just be like downloading here 10 gigabytes of music and forget about it the next day. Like, you really needed to learn the songs, you needed to play them, you needed to train, you needed to check where does the song start, where does it end, where's the break, does this song go well with the other song. You needed to know at least like in which kind of BPM range the record was in, so you needed to learn all of that by heart, or just maybe if you had the time, check the record against the record that was playing out to the people. So it was more fun, I have to say. It was more fun. But as always, if there's a way more convenient way and a way more cost-efficient way, that's how everyone will do it. My main reason why I'm not playing with records anymore is that like 90% of the songs at the moment that I want to play, they're not even available as a vinyl record. That's like a big bummer. Usually some indie small labels still press vinyls. Usually they don't even make the money back they spent on it. It's more like a collectible love relationship with these black beauties. And one last tip, never, 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 ever sell your record collection if you have one. Just don't. It's like selling your soul. I was in tough times thinking about selling all of these, and I'm happy I never sold them. There's no way getting that back. And today, just going through all of these records felt so good. There's almost no way to make this day any better. This is just perfect. I think I will just spend the rest of it sitting here, listening to music, listening to those old songs, thinking about old times with those new huge speakers. I think I didn't forget anything that was so tough about DJing with vinyl back in the days. If I forgot anything, just leave it down below in the comments. Tomorrow back again here in the studio for another fun vlog.